What is up, everybody? Welcome to day 22 of the All About How podcast from growingau.com. I am your host, John Knott, and you're joining us here today on day 22 of the 365-day podcasting experiment, where we are posting a podcast every single day for a year to answer the question, does more content equal more followers? Really excited to bring this episode for you today. A little bit of a story time, some successful storytelling today. That's what we're going to do. Gonna give you a little bit of a story relating around a moment that drastically changed my life forever, and entrepreneurial life, you could say. And we're going to talk about those key moments that really have a lot to do with changing and shaping our existence. That's what we're going to be talking about today through a story. So sit back, relax. We're going to have a nice little story time here today after we go ahead and, of course, roll the intro. This is All About How. Let's get into it.
It's all about how in 2020 we're going to leave the world a better place than we found it.
So first of all, I want to say that I'm happy to be back here today. As you know, yesterday's podcast was pre-recorded. I was out fly fishing for the majority of the day. Really good fishing. The catching, that's another story. Didn't do super well on that front, but it was an awesome time checking out some new water. If you're in Pennsylvania and you know what Penn's Creek is, then you know exactly where we were, hitting some fresh fly fishing water. Like we said, didn't get quite the result that we wanted, but it was still a beautiful day out. Nice bit of, again, normalcy in these hectic times. So definitely appreciated it on that front. But I want to tell you a little bit of a story today. I think it doesn't, you don't have to look far to know that there are probably key moments within our lives that have shaped our existence, shaped our character, shaped our personality, dictated the choices we will make later on, and those decisions could either be for better or for worse. But regardless, there are significant decisions that have done a lot to really formulate the people that we have become. And I want to talk about one of those moments for me today. And ultimately, my point for sharing it with you is to discuss the importance of harnessing those moments and realizing that these moments do happen, and to embrace it, and to really, when that kind of moment happens for you, to take it for what it's worth and use it to your advantage. And realize that we are somewhat biased, right? Because there are things in our life that are going to affect the choices that we make. So I want to share this moment with you. It was something that was really, really important to me, and I thought it would be just a nice story to tell. So let's get into that. Sit back, relax. Here comes a story. So I was, a few years ago in my junior year of high school, nominated for something called the Hershey Apollo Awards. And the Hershey Apollo Awards each year give an award to an individual in different categories, from plays, musicals, and dramas from the high schools in the area. And basically that could be anything from best lead actor and actress in a musical, best supporting character in a play, and so on and so forth. Best junior playwright, best stagehand, those types of things. And it's held at the Hershey Theater. Obviously, if you know, at Hershey Park, right next to that, really big professional off-Broadway space. Now, I was nominated my junior year for Best Lead Actor in a Musical. Now, a little bit of backstory there. The musical is The Music Man. I played Harold Hill. If you know musicals, it's a great show. And what happened was, that was the first year that I had really participated on stage of a high school production. I had done lighting, and I had done Pit the 2 years before, Pit being like the music and like the instrument playing. And this was the first year I auditioned for the show, and I got the lead. So also then simultaneously, we go through the months and months of rehearsal, go through shows, and then, you get notified that, hey, you're going to be part of the Hershey Theater Apollo Awards as one of our 5 nominees for Best Lead Actor in a Musical. And I was blown away and stunned, right? Like, this was not something that I had gone into this musical shooting for. I had not intended for this to be my reality. I honestly didn't even know that they existed long before the show was to be launched. So it was really kind of something that, when it happened, I was really kind of taken aback, and I didn't really know the scale of which I was getting into. So let's fast forward a little bit to the Hershey Theater, the Apollo Award night, and let me kind of give you a picture of what the whole situation was. We were in a theater, and the theater was pretty much sold out. Like, we're talking a couple thousand people. It's on TV. Like, this was a big, big event. And what we had to do as lead actors in a musical, and the lead actresses had to do this as well, is we had to sing a piece from our show in front of these people. And if you know The Music Man, I sang Trouble. I mean, if from all the songs from that show, I feel like that's pretty much the one that you have to sing. Maybe 76 Trombones, but we can debate that later. And so that's the song that I was set to sing. And now I was set to be the third singer that night. And the thing is, the lead actor and actress performance portion of the evening is later on. So you have about 2 hours worth of show and production. And this is a big to do, right? You have people presenting, you have people from the local news stations, ABC 27, stuff like that. You have people talking about the different parts of the show. You have people from Broadway giving out awards. Like, this is a big to do. And we were the last act, if you will, of the night. And so you're sitting there all night, you're nervous because you know that you have to sing in front of this huge crowd of people, in front of professionals in the field, in front of TV cameras and stuff like that. And we're all standing up there backstage, and I'm the third person up. And so the way that it worked out was that 3 people would go out on stage at a time, and the stage was completely dark. And then what would happen would be a spotlight would come down on the one person, they would sing their piece, it would shut off. Then it would come down on the next person, they would sing their piece, it would shut off. And then finally it would come up on, since I was the third person, it would come up on me. And basically, while the stage was dark, you'd have your next person come in and next people come out and stuff like that. But they always had 3 people on stage at a time, but you only saw the person who was in the spotlight. That's the point I'm trying to make here. So I go out on stage, and this is basically myself, my co-actress got nominated for an award that year as well. So she was next to me in the middle of the stage. And then finally on the far right-hand side of the stage was a actor from another musical. And we all were out there in the dark for it was probably like 10 seconds, but it felt like forever. And I don't get stage fright. I had performed for a long time. I have been in the performance music business, if you will, all throughout my education. So, I mean, singing in front of people, this was not something new for me. Like, that wasn't too worried about that. Of course, I always have this moment of right before I do something on stage like this, I can't remember my lines. Like, it's just impossible. And of course, I know them fine. It's just this innate fear of what if, right? So we're standing out there on stage. The first individual sings, lights go down on him. Lights go up on my co-actress, and she starts singing her piece. Sounds absolutely beautiful. So I'm kind of standing there because I realize, well, I'm next. And it's kind of that point of no return, a little musical reference there for you. It's kind of that point of no return where you realize, well, the only way out of this is to get through it, right? Like there's no other, there's no more time to prepare. There's no more time to be ready. Now the only thing there is to do is just simply perform. And obviously in those maybe 30, 45 seconds as she's singing her piece, I'm kind of looking around, and it's this huge theater, unlike anything I'd ever performed in before. And then something happened to me that really just stuck with me. I look up way in the back of the theater. Like, we're talking upper balcony all the way in the very, very far back. And it's a very large theater. And up in the very back wall, in the far corner of the theater, almost near the ceiling, there is a little cutout hole for a spotlight. And this spotlight, there was seemed to be like a lamp, like an orange glow behind the hole, right? So it showed the outline of the spotlight. And then what happened was there was a person who was kind of leaning out from behind the spotlight. And it was just a black silhouette, because obviously the light was behind him, so it skews the front features. You see the silhouette of the person. And this individual had the spotlight pointed at me, and it wasn't on yet because my co-star was singing, but he or she, I don't know, was getting ready to shine the light on me for me to do my part of the performance. And I'm looking up there at them, and they're looking down at me because they got to be ready to turn the spotlight on. And for 1 second in time, there's 1,000-something people sitting in front of you. This TV camera's about to be on you. And for one moment in time, that individual and myself were the only 2 people that existed in our reality. Because that individual's one focus was to make sure this light was on at the right spot. And for whatever reason, I just happened to look up and see the outline of that person looking down at me, and I'm looking back up at them. And it was just the reason that stuck with me is because in a moment where there are thousands of eyes about to be on you, in a moment where that is a high stakes, high performance, high intensity moment, there was just a brief second of complete serenity. this person and myself, and I'll never know who they are. I'll never know what their name was, what they look like, whatever. But that person and myself, for a second, that person just helped me find the calmness that I needed. Not to say that I was super nervous, but just seeing that person, it was like, hey, I don't know them. They don't know me, but we're about to be in this together because they have a job to light up what I'm about to do. So we're both connected right now. They're focusing on me and I'm focusing in on them. And that's all there is to it. Nothing else matters. And it was just this moment of confidence that was awesome. And I know it sounds kind of strange and maybe it doesn't quite translate in the way that it made sense, but I think what it taught me, and it's the reason it stuck with me so much, was that in this moment where I think a lot of people wouldn't even want to get up on that type of stage, where they wouldn't want to be, sing in front of that many people, it's just, that's not something that I think a lot of people necessarily would love to do, and I understand that completely. But to be in that moment of, this is the make it or break it, doesn't matter how well you did in your show, if you flub here, that's what's going to be remembered. And that's kind of the stressful part of that, right? But in that moment of that high stakes, high stress, it was just this moment of complete peace. And it really just taught me to block out all that noise. Block out all the other stuff. Block out all the inconsequential. It doesn't matter how many people are up there looking at you. It doesn't matter how many people are tuned into what it is you're doing. You know your stuff. And it was just this moment of, we choose. We get to choose what affects us. We get to choose what it is that we give our attention to. We choose the emotional, physical, and mental response that we give to any situation that the world has presented to us. And that's what that moment taught me. Because in a moment of my life that could have been possibly, for some, one of the scariest environments to be in, I found probably the most peaceful I've ever been. Now, in my 19 years of life, that sounds a little dramatic, but it's the truth. That moment was one of the most peaceful, because as I said, for 1 second in the history of the universe, myself and that person were completely connected and nothing else mattered. Nothing. For 1 singular second, my entire universe consisted of one individual silhouetted by a lamp behind a spotlight in the back of the theater. And that's all that mattered.